Hey guys, my name is Devontae, and I sacrificed my time so you don't have to. Now, I'm going to give you my opinion in regards to Will Ospreay and the potential signing of him from what I'm hearing through the grapevine. This is what I'm hearing through the grapevine, and obviously I got some articles that I want to read for you, or an article. No point in reading multiple articles, but an article I want to read for you guys down in the description box that apparently lends credence to this. So we'll talk about this first, and then I'll give my opinion afterwards. I'm on break right now, so I'll try to make this as quick as humanly possible. I mean, I can only make it as quick as a millennial smart / Devontae Rackley upload can be, but here we go, right? Sorry, indigestion right there. Sorry about that, folks. Will Ospreay open to signing with WWE, relocating to the United States. Ospreay's New Japan Pro Wrestling contract expires in February. Will Ospreay is open to the idea of joining WWE. The 30-year-old, he's only 30 years old? Really? Wow. Huh. I'm older than Will Ospreay? That's crazy. I would have never guessed that. Regardless, though, the 30-year-old's New Japan Pro Wrestling contract expires in February, and he recently told Sports Illustrated that he will explore every single option when it does. Ospreay was recently asked by Metro about the possibility of him signing with WWE. And I quote from Will Ospreay, "I mean, we have spoke about it more. I'm now open to the idea of stretching myself out that little bit more," Ospreay responded. "As age has become more apparent to me and my body is hurting more and more, I'm open to all avenues. I've had a lot of talks with my friends about this, and I've spoke to the missus." Ospreay also mentioned that he and his significant other are open to possibly relocating to the United States. And I quote, "Although we've spent so much money on our new kitchen, we are open to the idea of relocating to the United States. It's on the table. That's all I can really say," he added. "That means I am open to all options going forward." And I think it continues on by talking about some stuff in regards to Seth Rollins and, all that other stuff. And, just a bunch of miscellaneous stuff. You guys want to read it furthermore, again, I got it down in the description box below. But, there was another article. I said article at first, but there was another one that was talking about WWE outright. Let me see, WWE absolute. Oh, yeah, we go. So this is from Cultaholic. Should I be reading something from Cultaholic? They are just, isn't Cultaholic no different than me? They're a commentary channel also, right? But maybe not in the same vein, but they're a news outlet commentary channel rather than an actual Fightful or, like a Wrestling Observer newsletter. Regardless, I'll read what they have to say because they're quoting Wrestling Observer regardless. Should just go directly to the source, but hey, it's here. They said, and this is coming from Wrestling Observer, not so much Cultaholic, but I will link them. And you know what? No, I don't feel right doing this. Let me look at Wrestling Observer. They're the ones that made the claim. So let's see if I can find them real quick. Get it from the actual source, the source material, right? Let's see. It's got the more. Will Ospreay open to WWE? Will Ospreay has the best time to compete for Impact Wrestling? Will Ospreay? Blah 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 blah. Okay, I can't really find. Okay, so I guess I will just go to the Cultaholic thing then. But I will link them. But I just want to say outright that it is Wrestling Observer newsletter. Got to give credit where credit is due. So I guess go back to the Cultaholic article. It said Dave Meltzer has claimed that WWE are absolutely interested in signing Will Ospreay. Okay, so it's just another opinion piece, right? Because even though Will Ospreay is probably saying the things that he's saying, but here, let me read the quote quick. Dave says he made more comments as far as his future. "I know some stuff. I know WWE is absolutely after him, and he is absolutely going to listen to WWE. There's a lot of different things. He's going now for the best offer. He's got a family. He's got Barry Bloom representing him. WWE is very, very interested in him. Everyone is, and they should be. It will be interesting to see who gets him," Meltzer said. Now, again, I have no proof of this at all. This is just literally me throwing out my own bullshit, okay? I'm just got a little dart and I'm throwing it out at the wall, and whatever target it hits, right? No, real talk though, my honest opinion when I look at something like this, is it just me, or am I like the only person that kind of looks at Dave Meltzer as being these indie wrestlers PR teams or whatnot, right? Like, I feel as if whenever he talks, he just kind of throws out bullshit in regards to what WWE and I'm not saying he could absolutely be right, but I just get this intuition that no one or someone very, very insignificant within WWE is saying something like this, and I don't think it's that credible. Like, if he could, it'd be nice if he could actually name some names so we can see the credit. I mean, obviously he's not going to do that because the person who's actually reporting on this is never going to put their name on something like this, because they could get backlash, they can get heat, possibly even fired by WWE if their name was released. But god damn it all, man, I see Dave Meltzer say things like this all the time, and half the time it's usually discredited from the wrestler themselves, or the person in WWE tells someone like, who I actually believe, I don't like the guy, but is it just me? I feel as if Sean Ross Sapp is a hell of a lot more credible than Dave. You know, I feel as if like Sean is more on point. I don't like either one of them, but for Dave to be the so-called, you know, quintessential backstage guy, I feel like the past couple of years that someone like a Sean Ross Sapp at FIFO has been way more credible than a Dave Meltzer. Maybe that's just me, but you know, coming from a person who has to report on this kind of stuff. But nevertheless, though, I feel like Dave Meltzer just pulls shit out of his ass in order to feel like it. Like, kind of like CM Punk these past couple of weeks. He's been sending out fillers and, you know, kind of testing the waters to see whether or not WWE really wants to approach him. I kind of feel like Dave Meltzer does the same thing for a bunch of these indie talents, where it's like they, like there's no actual credibility to the claims that he's making. He just throws out his opinion, or he throws out a sentiment that you can't really calibrate, if you know what I'm trying to say. And again, I could absolutely be wrong. This is just coming off my noodle. I'm just saying that's my intuition when I first hear things like this coming from a Dave Meltzer. But I digress, though. We're gonna actually just pretend for a second that this is all credible. What Dave Meltzer said is absolutely right, and the sentiments coming from Will Ospreay, it quoted him. It's him saying it. But all these things are going into one, and there's a huge possibility for Will Ospreay to go to WWE. Now, I have mixed feelings on this. I hate. You guys know how much I hate playing fence post sitter. I like to be firm in my positions. I like to just straight up just sit there, and I will tell you, there's no playing both sides of the field. But I feel like I have no choice but to play both sides of the field, because on one hand, I feel like this is not a good idea, but at the same time, I can see the benefit of Will Ospreay being on the show. Now, as far as the benefits go, I'll talk about that first, kind of give you guys a little bit of the dessert before dinner type. I understand where they're coming at that. I can understand the angle as far as where they're reaching with this. Now, the question is, before I talk about the positives, I would presume he has to go directly to the main roster if this is true, right? There's no way you're going to get someone like a Will Ospreay, one of the biggest indie talents in the world, quite possibly right about now, and probably for like the last half decade, or probably like the last half decade, probably. Like, are you going to put him directly on NXT? I would think the common census is to put him on Raw or SmackDown, right? But once you put him on Raw and SmackDown, what do? Now, obviously, people are going to think, oh, you know, you should probably put him directly up against someone like an AJ Styles, right? Or maybe you want to get him in a match with Rey Mysterio, or hell, you might want to rekindle his old feud with Ricochet or something like that. I'm pretty sure those are the major consensus that comes into play when talking about a Will Ospreay. But here's the thing, though, those are just matches. And I heard Will Ospreay talking to the microphone before. It's not as if he's like the worst person I've ever heard on the microphone, but I wouldn't necessarily call him terribly exciting. You know what I mean? It's like, does he really fit with the WWE machine? Well, if you would have asked me that a couple of months ago, I would have definitely said no. But now that it seems more than 99% confirmed that Triple H is at the helm when it comes to the creative, I feel like it's a lot better atmosphere for someone like a Will Ospreay to come right about now. I feel as if him coming in right now with Triple H being, you know, the captain of the ship, steering the creative right now at the moment, being the de facto boss of WWE, the manager, if you will, of his department when it comes to this whole TKO stuff, it's a lot better looking for a Will Ospreay. That's definitely true. And honestly, him going there, pretty much expanding the roster a little bit more, there's nothing wrong with that in the end of the day, especially if he ends up on a Raw or SmackDown. I don't see really the benefit of him being in NXT, but him going to Raw or SmackDown, I can honestly see the benefit from it as far as just, you know, helping out the roster, kind of filling certain spots, and maybe even potentially doing a couple of dream matches that people would call dream matches. I don't necessarily agree with the position, but you know, who am I to say something is not a dream match because I don't feel it's a dream match? I mean, maybe people see it completely different than I do. I know I have some dream matches that people wouldn't necessarily consider dream matches, so there you go with that. But that's the extent of where the positives come from. I can see why. I mean, it's never bad to add salsa to your Tostito chips, right? I mean, yeah, you could just get some lemon lime Tostito chips. You could even be more crazier and pick up a big bag of Doritos, because, you know, it actually has flavor within this tortilla chips. But it's nothing wrong with grabbing some salsa, maybe some cheese dip, you know, maybe grab a little bit of the guacamole, and you want to, you know, you dip your Tostito chips. I see nothing wrong with that. My problem with this whole ordeal, honestly, and again, the negatives more so outweigh the positives when talking about a Will Ospreay, even though I can understand the consensus. My negatives come more into question, what do you do after these so-called, dream matches? You can only extend so long when it comes to a dream match scenario when talking about a Will Ospreay. Not to mention, I wouldn't necessarily call Will Ospreay the type of guy that you would want to do certain storylines with, because can he pull it off to the degree of, okay, Will Ospreay as a heel. Can you necessarily have Will Ospreay as a heel when he kind of has a style that is definitely the portrayal of a babyface? And people can sit there and be like, whoa, yeah, but he's been pulling off on the indie circuit. Yeah, see, that's the difference, though. We're talking about WWE. Now, if he was going to AEW, that's a completely different scenario, right? Because that's pretty much an internet wrestling powerhouse hub, if you will, when it comes to the ideology of professional wrestling overall, when talking about, indie guys or internet darlings, however type of meta bullshit euphemism you want to use when talking about a must-show wrestler for all intents and purposes, right? But does he fit that style in regards to actually portraying himself correctly? Can he get over with a WWE crowd? People say yes because of the stuff that he can do in the ring, but then I have to ask, what makes him so different than the other guys? Because he can do more flips? I mean, honestly, you got Ricochet right there also. Is Ricochet really, doing great when it comes to him being over on the main roster? Some may say yes. And, also these are the same people that believe ghosts are real. These are the same people that believe Sasquatch are real. These are people who actually believe aliens are real. I mean, maybe that might be the case because Sasha Banks is roaming around somewhere at some convention, but I digress though. My point being is though, no, Ricochet is not over. Just because you can flip and kick and do all these sorts of kind of things doesn't necessitate to you being over. It just means that you're just the guy who knows how to pop a crowd. Fair, right? Okay, but when Will Ospreay comes in, he, kind of does the same thing that Ricochet can do. I mean, do you expect him to get as over as a Ricochet? You may say to yourself, well, but Triple H is at the helm. I understand, but what is Triple H currently doing right now with Ricochet? He's kind of like bouncing around in the mid-card division, right? One may say he's being built up, but I see no evidence of that. I mean, he was underneath Triple H's thumb for a few months before Vince McMahon inevitably came back and got his position. What did he do with Ricochet at the time? Can you tell me? I don't see anything. Do you see anything? I didn't see it. I did. I did. I mean, no. Do you expect anything different for a Will Ospreay? Not to mention, even though I understand the expansion of the roster, what does Will Ospreay really bring to the table that's so radically different that, you so desperately want him? Do you desperately want him so he could be in a position to make a difference? Because again, what does he bring to the table that makes a difference? Or do you desperately want him because you want him to fill out your mid-card? That I can understand, but then that comes right back to Will Ospreay, and it's like, okay, do you really want to do that? Not to mention, okay, cool, you're making more money, but to the potential viewer, what's the difference between you and everybody else? Again, I break up Ricochet. You know what I mean? If I was Will Ospreay, I would actually look at this from a perspective of, okay, what's the long-term deal? Because, yeah, granted, I understand you're going to use me right now in certain matches and certain circumstances, but what is the long-term plan? Even though it's Triple H driving the car, and even though I trust Triple H with my career more so than I do with Vince McMahon, it seems a little bit more, it seems a little bit more steady when dealing with a Triple H, if you know what I mean. What are you going to do with me after point A? Because I can see point A. That's right there. That's literally right there. But what about point B? Okay, now we got to get to point C eventually. And then point D. And then point E. Where do we go from this? Not to mention, I don't know if you guys know this. I read the story early on about WWE. All these contracts are coming due up in 2024, right? And apparently it's not WWE doing the renegotiations, right? Apparently that's someone up in TKO. They're the ones doing the renegotiation, especially for the top talent, right? And there are a lot of people curious as to how this is going to go. I got a question. If it's the TKO guys doing it, now obviously I got to believe this has got to be some type of, some reporting, some middleman that's going to be from WWE reporting to TKO. I would presume it's someone like a Triple H or maybe one of his underlings, but I would presume it's Triple H, right? I just got to know, do they benefit? Does TKO necessarily care to know about the wrestlers who are getting over? Do they watch the product? What are the procedures and steps that go into these contract negotiations, whether they're renegotiating or they're negotiating? What are the steps? I gotta presume they're talking to someone like Triple H in order to get a rapport as far as like, okay, what we're gonna do as far as re-signing the contracts. But at the same time, though, like, okay, I get that, but does that necessarily say that Will Ospreay is? That's what I mean when I say I don't understand where Dave Meltzer is coming from when he says WWE is excited for Will Ospreay. Okay, but it's not WWE anymore doing these contracts, right? I would presume maybe they're doing something as far as like recommending. Maybe they're drawing up the contract stipulations as far as what is conducted. But it's still TKO's decision in the end of the day, right? And I gotta understand, because none of them are doing contract extensions right now. So there's gonna be another pool of releases coming in 2024. Or I wouldn't say releases, but they're gonna let these contracts expire. Like, how do you know Will Ospreay is safe going to WWE? What are the benefits of his contract? What is he going to do in that time frame? See, there's a bunch of questions, again, that I want to know. Is TKO a bunch of people who just care about the big stars? Like, if you're not Roman Reigns level, like, do they really give a shit about you? Now, I'm speaking on behalf of Will Ospreay because that does have to be questioned when talking about the long-term plausibility of him being in WWE, and where does this lead in regards to who he's going to wrestle and doing this and doing that and doing this, or are they just going to rush through everything, or they're going to just have him in long-term feuds in order to just get through the contract to have him face against certain dream opponents that they figure may be dream opponents, like an AJ Styles, something along the lines of that, right? I'm mixed. I'm just very, very mixed in regards to Will Ospreay coming to WWE. On one hand, I want to say that I don't necessarily give a shit at the end of the day, but then we get Carmelo Hayes. I said the same thing about Christian Casanova a couple of years ago, that no one's going to give a shit about. I made one of the biggest blunders ever. I made the shittiest prediction ever. I said no one was going to give a shit about Christian Casanova, and now you have Carmelo Hayes, right? So I can't say that no one in the casual audience is not going to give a shit about him, because Carmelo Hayes is getting over right now, and he's a future star in WWE. I mean, obviously, not taking into context anything bad happening. Hopefully that ages well, but I mean, I'm not really good at making predictions as far as what's going to happen with a superstar. Not to mention, Will Ospreay is obviously a bigger name than Christian Casanova when he was on the indie circuit in comparison. Might even still be a bigger name right now than Carmelo Hayes overall. I'm just very mixed. Personally speaking, I don't really see the necessity. I don't see... He fits better in AEW. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't really see what's necessary about him signing with WWE. I think it's a lot better fit with AEW. But if he feels like he can get a better deal, then, you know, all power to him. I just personally don't see the benefit in him coming to WWE, but at the same time, I can see why WWE feels the benefits of him coming there, even though this is reported mainly from Dave Meltzer, who I don't understand the sentiments, or how did he get this information, or who did he get this information from. And again, with the contracts of TKO, it's just a bunch of... It's a huge... I'm just going to stick to my own sentiments. I don't see the reason for him coming to WWE, but I can understand the reason why he's coming to WWE. Again, one of the few times where it's gonna just fucking be milquetoast on this. But you guys let me know in the comments below how you feel about Will Ospreay supposedly coming to WWE. Do you want to see him sign with WWE? Do you see the benefits of him coming to WWE? What's gonna make him so different in comparison to the rest of the wrestlers who are already there, who can kind of do the same thing that he's currently doing, just with one less flip? And in respects to Ricochet, probably even better than him when it comes to the whole flipping stuff. I mean, it's not me saying that. It's Will Ospreay saying he's getting slower in age and he can only do certain things. I mean, do you see him going to WrestleMania coming up? I mean, he will be getting in regards. I mean, what, the Tokyo Dome stuff, right? Wrestle Kingdom, I think that's in January, right? So he could still do the whole Kenny Omega match. So that's not as if he's missing out on that. Like, say that's a dream of his, to wrestle Kenny Omega potentially at Wrestle Kingdom. Okay, once he gets that over with, his contract expires in February. Theoretically, is there anything else left for him to necessarily do? I mean, from a dream match perspective, once that's done, he could theoretically go to WWE and then, you know, kind of just rest his body, because WWE style is nowhere near as hard on his body than any... I mean, it's part of the softest style of professional wrestling today. Touring is harder, but the matches themselves are a lot softer. Not to mention the potential dream matches in WWE. I mean, Seth Rollins is right there. Pretty sure people would like to see him against Roman Reigns. I said AJ Styles already. Ricochet is there. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. As always, my name is Devontae, and I will catch you guys later. Deuces, P. Ice.